Well. Welcome back. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. Was it Emerson, Lake, and Palmer that said that, I think? Way back, I don't know, back when I was young. Actually, it might even have been, no, I think it was right when I was maybe like 2 or 3 years old. But either way, I'm back. I was at a week at the beach. Nice, really, really good time at the beach. It was very much needed. It was very much one of those things where I basically needed a vacation, took a vacation, and of course, I'm back, and we are back in the thick of things. One of the things we never, ever want to do, and by the way, this is the big show with Paul Zeise, brought to you by Archie's. Get down to Archie's. Archie's, home of 80 cent wings, Monday through Thursday. Home of the Paul Zeise grilled cheese sandwich. So get down to Archie's and tell Archie I said hello when you get there, and also tell him I sent you. Also, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. And of course, FanDuel is for all of your gambling needs. Go to FanDuel.com. We'll talk a little bit more about FanDuel in a little bit. Now then, we never want to overreact, right? To one game, one situation, one, really good game, one really bad game. We never want to overreact to that. But one thing that seems to be pretty clear is that the Steelers probably played their most complete game when on Sunday against the Vikings. 24-21, they won. They kind of almost gave it up there at the end, but they didn't. They were basically a team that held on for dear life and figured it out. And that's, what you do. You figure it out, right? But they really played well in the first half. I thought that one of the things that we saw was Kenneth Gainwell sort of unleashed. I think another thing we saw that was pretty clear is that Kaleb Johnson is a good alternate player who maybe someday will be a really good player, but he's probably not ready yet. And, I think that one of the things I saw with him is, and this could have been by design, he played a little bit scared. And what I mean by that is he didn't want to fumble, didn't want to make mistakes. So he was thinking a lot more than just going out there and playing. Maybe in a couple of weeks, if he feels comfortable and he keeps playing and he keeps getting playing time, that will change. But, obviously Kenneth Gainwell averaged 5.2 yards per carry, had 2 touchdowns, looked really, really good running the football. The Steelers, for the first time, seemed to have success running the football, averaged 4.5 yards as a team, ran for 131 yards. They did a really bang-up job as far as running the football on Sunday, and that probably is as big of a reason why they won as any. Now, what I will tell you is that it also shows how much of this game is dependent on the offensive line. Because I don't know that we are comparing apples to oranges when we're comparing Kenneth Gainwell's day to some of the days Warren had, because this was the best game the offensive line played. I mean, they were coming off the ball and they were moving people and they were creating holes and they were playing with physicality and they were playing downhill. And at times it looked like they were just pushing the Vikings all over the field. So we haven't seen that yet from them. And I think that's important because that's a part of the story as well. It's a part of the story that needs to be told, that Kenneth Gainwell's big day was really kind of, good for the Steelers. And, it shows that they can run the football and how important running the football will be for them going forward. But I think the other thing you have to remember is, Jaylen Warren has been running into brick walls and getting hit in the backfield a lot and getting, pushed around and everything else. that's probably something to think about as well. So I just feel like it's really important in so many ways that you don't completely overreact to one game and say, well, this definitively proves something. What I saw was Kaleb Johnson is behind the other two running backs. That, I think, was established on Sunday. But in terms of Kenneth Gainwell, I mean, I think he did what he probably is capable of doing if he gets that kind of blocking. And I think that the actual running game of the Steelers is better because of that, because of his ability to run the football behind an offensive line that's dominating. And, when you're coming off the ball like that, I think that's important as far as good as the running back is. He's only as good as the guys in front of him. And that's something to think about when we talk about, well, they should, go to Kenneth Gainwell. Well, maybe. But then again, maybe not. And I think that's where we're at with it. It's really important for them, I think, and for everything else that's going on. It's important for them to be able to go through this and look at the film and say, did Jaylen Warren get the same kind of holes? Did he have the same kind of opportunities that Kenneth Gainwell did? And the thing about it is they have a whole week now to prepare. And coming up, they've got the Browns. And it sounds like they're probably going to get a rookie quarterback when they finally do get the Browns, after a bye week or whatever you want to say. They're going to be able to do that. And so I think that's really important. It really is. I feel like it's really important for them and for everyone else. Because to me, when they get healthier, and again, they got healthy and they still have some guys that can get healthy. If they get to a point where they get their full roster back, they're playing the Browns coming off of they'll be coming off a bye week. They will have had an opportunity to really break down this film and look at some things and make a decision as to whether Kenneth Gainwell actually should be the starter. I think one thing that we've seen from the Steelers, they're going to try and have two running backs. They're not going to play, one guy gets 30 carries. They're just not going to do that. So even if Kenneth Gainwell is the starter, maybe he gets 20 and Warren gets 15. I don't think it's going to be a case of where Warren gets buried on the bench and we never hear from him again. That's just not how they do things or how they have done things or how they will do things. It's just really, really important, for them now to break down the film and not overreact. But one thing we saw is when they run the football like that, they can be a really difficult team to deal with. For one thing, I think it's important. Listen, they were able to dictate the terms of the game. And I think what was really kind of frustrating to me was on that last drive, you have a 4th and 1 to basically win the game. You're running the ball all day. Your line has been dominating pretty much all day. And you decide that you don't want to take a chance, but instead want to take a delay of game penalty and then punt. I don't like that at all. I don't like that because I think that they could do better than that. I think that they could have basically lined up and got that yard, won the game. And to me, Mike Tomlin talks a lot about living in your fears and all the other stuff. Be honest, that kind of was living in your fears. You had the ability. You had the ability to figure out that, hey, we're running the football really well here. Our line is doing well. And so since our line is doing well, let's win the game. Let's let our offensive line, who's been one of the best units on the field the entire game, let's let them win the game. Because ultimately, 4th and 1, it's the offensive line that's going to win the game. Forget about who's the running back. Forget about who they're handing it off to. Forget about even if they're going to try and quarterback sneak or whatever. You win or lose right there. Basically, based on your offensive line. And their offensive line played really, really well the other day. So to me, I keep Jaylen Warren when he's healthy. I put him back in the mix. Maybe I give Gainwell a couple of more carries. Or better yet, and I think this is the ultimate scenario, you've got two guys now that you can trust. You've got two guys that you can trust. And so now you go through and you basically say, we got two guys that we can trust. Let's, figure out who's the hot hand. Let's give that guy the ball. Let's make sure when that guy gets the ball, if he's running well, we're going to feed him more, or we'll feed the other guy more. You have the ability to do that because now you have two guys who have proven to you. They have proven to you. Two guys who've proven that they're capable of doing the job. Kenneth Gainwell, I think, is what he is. But I would like to see if Jaylen Warren got the opportunity to run behind the kind of blocking that they had on Sunday. And again, it's one game. It's weird. The NFL is a weird place. It's a weird game. It's a weird league right now. I don't know from week to week who's really good and who's not. You look at the standings and, for instance, the Falcons have looked horrible some weeks and really good other weeks. In fact, the Falcons destroyed that Vikings team. But they also have a horrific loss on their register. The Lions the last 2 weeks look like maybe they might be the best team in the league, right? Actually, the last 3 weeks. But at the beginning of the year, they got blown out by the Packers, who, by the way, all of a sudden the Packers are struggling to figure out how to win again. People were talking about how the Packers might have the best defense in football. And really, if you look at it, on Sunday, the Packers got shredded. So I think one of the things, the Packers defense got shredded by Dallas. And so I'm one of those people that I say the NFL right now, because of, I don't want to use the word parity, but parity is probably a good word to use. Because of that, you just don't know week to week who's capable of what and who's doing what. Another great example. The Chargers looked like maybe they were a Super Bowl team for 3 weeks. And last week, they go to New York, who's terrible, and they lose to a rookie quarterback. So I'm just trying to figure out, week to week, who's really good and who's not. I also think this. If you look at the Steelers' schedule, let's project out a little bit. If you look at the Steelers' schedule, they should beat the Browns. That puts them at 4-1. That Bengals game a primetime Bengals game, which it won't shock me if they actually flex that out because the Bengals have been terrible. But that's a Thursday night game, so I don't think they can flex it out. But my point is, the Bengals have looked horrific. All of a sudden, that game at the Bengals looks very, very manageable. The game at home against the Packers, the game at home against the Colts, those games all of a sudden look a lot more manageable than they did. At the Chargers, that looks very manageable. At the Bears, maybe looks like one of the toughest games they've got. You combine that with the fact that the Ravens are probably going to be without Lamar Jackson for 3 or 4 weeks, and all of a sudden, it's not out of the realm, of realistic to say you think the Steelers might win the division, but you just never know. You take one major injury, Aaron Rodgers goes down for 4 weeks, and here's the other thing I'll tell you. Anybody that thinks there's not a difference between Aaron Rodgers and insert whatever quarterback you want to put in there, since Ben Roethlisberger, Rodgers is clearly far better than any of those other guys we can name. Duck, Rudolph, Trubisky, Pickett, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. none of them are close to Aaron Rodgers. And that's the other part of it with Aaron Rodgers that I think people are missing. It's not just the throws that he makes. It's the decisions that he makes. It's him putting the ball where it needs to be. It's him, checking into the right, right play or right scheme or whatever. It's one of those things where Aaron Rodgers has made a huge difference for the Steelers. And so, again, say he were to go down for 3 or 4 games, things could change real quickly as well. So it's the ultimate grind, the ultimate football grind, the ultimate, I would say, situation where I believe that, you look at it and basically say it's week to week, but the Steelers appeared to fix some of the things that they were struggling with quickly this week, I would say. They against the run, they shut down the Vikings running game. I don't think Carson Wentz is great, but he's okay. He's good enough. And for the most part, they shut him down. The secondary made plays. The defensive line made plays. Herbig continues to be a beast in the pass rush. And so I think that's, really what you have to, look at and say that's reality. Anyway, we've got the FanDuel Sports is one of our sponsors. FanDuel basically is one of the things where we say you can download FanDuel if you want to bet all of your betting needs. Go to FanDuel.com and make sure that you do your due diligence before you decide what you're going to bet on. We've got playoff games going on right now. And I will tell you, it's kind of interesting. The Yankees and the Red Sox, a game that we all are tired of watching. Guess what? It's in New York. The Yankees finished 5 games ahead of the Red Sox. And, the reality is the Yankees are favored in the series. And they're favored tonight when you look at the FanDuel app. If you want to bet on the Yankees, basically what you have to do is lay $145 to win 100. So you lay $145 and you have a chance to win 100. If you want to bet on the Red Sox, you kind of go the other way. You bet 100, you win 120. So it's clear they're favored, and I think that's really, to me, an important note. You can always go to the FanDuel. You can bet on player props. You can bet on all kinds of different things. But the reality is you've got Aaron Judge on the big stage tonight. You can bet on him. You can bet on home runs from him. You can bet on a number of different things. Pitching matchup is Max Fried for the Yankees. Max Fried was 8-2 with a 2.37 ERA. And, of course, Garrett Crochet from Boston, 13-2, 2.25 ERA. So it's one of those games that I think a lot of people are going to be all over the game in terms of they think that they're going to be a lot of runs scored in this game. But, again, you've got a really, really good pitching matchup. Then in the later game, you've got the Dodgers hosting the Reds, and I would be willing to bet a lot of people believe that the Reds are going to get slaughtered. The FanDuel line, if you want to win $100, betting on the Dodgers, you'd have to lay $190, and the opposite is true. If you look at the Reds, the actual odds in this game on the FanDuel app, you could bet 100, right? You could bet 100. And if you bet $100 on the Reds, you'll win 160. So for a playoff game, that tells me the guys in Vegas are pretty sure that the Dodgers are going to win, which is why the price is so high. Blake Snell on the mound, Hunter Green on the mound for the Reds. The thing I will say about Blake Snell is this. He's one of the last of the man's men. He's a man's man on the mound. And so I would tell you, it's going to be an interesting game. But Blake Snell's the kind who puts his nose to the grind and is going to try and win the game if he can. That's just how he is. He's a grinder. So anyway, that's your FanDuel moment. Go to the FanDuel app. Again, you can bet on players. You can bet on, parlays. You could bet something like, for instance, if you think the two home teams are going to win, put together a little parlay, try and get plus money. The Yankees, Dodgers, it would be what would we call that? The rich team parlay, right? The rich guys parlay. You could do all that at FanDuel.com. Monday, we had what I would call a farce of a press conference involving the Pirates. Pirates made a good move, hiring Donnie Kelly. Pirates made a bad move. They left Travis Williams and Ben Cherington in place. I don't see any path for them to get better. I'm sorry. Not with those two guys in place. It makes no sense to me. I'm not sure how are you going to get better with those two guys on the running the show still. And so I feel like when we talk about that whole thing with the Pirates, they've got to do a better job than what they're doing. They've got to do a better job than what they're doing. And what they're doing isn't working. Just isn't. It feels to me like you're in year 6 and you have 71 wins. Why are you still the general manager? And we see all across baseball, guys getting, let go, guys getting fired. Good baseball guys, Ron Washington, Bruce Bochy, getting fired and whatever. There's a couple teams letting go of their general manager. The Pirates are not serious about winning. They literally have said to everybody, we do not care about winning. Because if you did, you wouldn't bring back Ben Cherington, period. You wouldn't bring him back. 6 years, what more do you have to see from him? And someone, on social media made the comment, they think that the Browns might be, the worst run organization in sports. They're even worse than the Pirates, to which I would say they're not. Because here's the thing. The Browns are incompetent, but so are the Pirates. The difference is the Browns are actually trying to win. They just don't know how to. Pirates aren't trying to win. I made this comparison before, and I'll make it again. The Pirates had opportunities to sign a guy like Trevor Bauer, who had some baggage and, whatever, but would have made them a better team. Would have been a really nice addition to their starting pitching rotation. They could have got him for the league minimum, on the cheap, and they decided that they didn't want to do that. The Browns went out and got Deshaun Watson, who had all kinds of, issues off the field, but they thought they were signing a young guy in his prime. They thought they were signing their, stud quarterback of the future. Turned out it blew up in their face, but they signed him for $250 million guaranteed so that they could get him because there was a bidding war between them and 3 teams. The reality is they were trying. They want to win. They have no idea what they're doing, but they want to win. So, they're incompetent, but they're trying, as opposed to the Pirates who are incompetent and they're not trying. That's why I would tell you the Pirates are probably the worst organization in sports. And we haven't even gotten to all of the silly, bobblehead things, the brick wall thing, all the stuff that is going on. We haven't even gotten to all that stuff off the field. ushers getting into fist fights or with fans, all of that stuff. But to me, the biggest thing is you've got a general manager who's been around 6 years. And in year 6, produced a 71-win team with, by the way, the best pitcher in baseball leading and anchoring the pitching staff. How does that happen? The other part of it you have to wonder is, what are they doing to develop players? Because you look at O'Neal Cruz, I don't know that he's better now than he was a year ago or 2 years ago, and he should be. He should have had his prime, bust-out season this year, but he didn't. He just didn't. If you want to tell me that Nick Gonzalez has been pretty good and got developed the right way, okay, but Nick Gonzalez is a complimentary player. It's what he is. You can win with a Nick Gonzalez if your O'Neal Cruz is actually out there doing what he's supposed to do. So, it's just now an important thing for the Pirates. They've got to decide, are you serious about trying to win, or is it just going to be more of the same? And if it's just more of the same, what are we doing? What's the point? What's the purpose? Period. What's the purpose? So I don't know, man. I look at the Pirates and they have a press conference. I'm happy for Donnie Kelly. He deserves it. I think he, is a guy that's respected really well. Obviously, he's got roots here, ties here, and all that other stuff. But to me, I look at it and basically say, it shows me they don't care enough about winning if they're going to bring Ben Cherington back and Travis Williams back with a straight face and tell us they're trying to win. You're not. You're not. I just think that's the case when it comes to the Pirates. By the way, I look at the world of college football real quick. I am starting to believe that maybe it's time for Pitt to find a new situation for their football team. And I mean coaching. And I love Pat Narduzzi. I think he does so many good things for the program. I think he's a really good ambassador for the program. I think he's really good at what he does in terms of his players love playing for him. I think he, for given what he's doing, I think he recruits reasonably well. I think there's a lot to like about him. You never hear about Pitt players getting in trouble anymore. He's very big on academics. I mean, they're really trying to do things the right way, and they run their program the right way. But at some point, you got to win more, don't you? At some point, you got to win more. And they have played 4 games, and they already have 2 losses. And you look at what they have left. Okay, they should win their next game against Boston College. But after that, at Florida State, even at Syracuse, NC State, at Stanford. Stanford looks like a tougher game. Notre Dame, at Georgia Tech, Miami. There's probably 3 more losses in that, if not more. And if he loses 3 more, that's 5 losses. That means he's been a coach at Pitt for 11 seasons. And 9 of them he ended up with 5 losses or more. That, to me, Pitt should be better than that. Should Pitt be a team that's in the playoff discussion every year? Probably not. That's probably a little unrealistic. But, not losing 5 games is not really a high bar to ask a guy to hit. I think the other thing about it is, the quarterback situation has been just completely blown up in so many ways. It's almost embarrassing. You've got, Eli Holstein, who they've paid a ton of money to. He still makes all the same mistakes he's made forever. You've got Cole Gonzalez, who they brought in. I don't know. I don't see a ton from him. The best of the 3 is probably the freshman, Mason Heichel, and they're probably not going to give him a chance because they want to redshirt. But this can't be a year where you're redshirting guys for 3 years down the road for him. It can't be. Not in year 11. And so, he needs to figure out who his best quarterback is and play him. That's really what it comes down to. Anyway, I'm glad I'm back. Been a long day, the first day back from vacation. hopefully we'll be able to do it again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.